Around back in '97, covering the whole thing. How time flies by in the blink of an eye. What's changed? Has Hong Kong press freedom gone to the doghouse or not? Our next guest is the author of a new book looking at issues of this nature. Mohammed Cohen, author of Hong Kong on Air, with us right ahead. It's been a little over 10 years ago. We did cover the 10-year marker of the anniversary of the Hong Kong handover after what was 150, 160 years of British colonial rule. Many of us old hats who've been around and are carbon dated now because of our advancing age, were here right in the middle of the epicenter of that huge political upheaval. It wasn't really upheaval, but a period of really a lot of navel gazing and change here in Hong Kong. A lot of questions, of course, 10 years after. A lot of things have disappeared, a lot of British artifacts. We don't have flags flying in the cenotaph anymore right in Central. What has changed during that time? Just a handful of us were around at that time. And joining us is a person who was actually a former colleague of mine at a previous iteration in our careers. Please meet Mohammed Cohen, writer, journalist, TV producer, ex-diplomat, and the author, hi, Mohammed,
Hey.
and the author of this book, Hong Kong on Air. If you look really carefully here, this is Prince Charles, this is Jiang Zemin, this is Tong Chi-Hua, and this is
Governor Patton.
This is, who is that? That's
Governor Patton.
Patton.
Yes.
How you doing, Mohammed?
Very good.
Welcome to the show. How much has changed since in the last 10 years? Some say that Hong Kong's gone down the tubes, that we're Chinese leading and we're self-censoring nowadays. Agree or wrong?
I think that a lot of things have changed. I think the media, though, is very much the same as it was. Mm-hmm. I think that 10 years ago we were still talking about these same issues. Even then we were talking about self-censorship. We were talking about how to cover China and what the relationship should be between China and Hong Kong. I think what we may wonder about is why 10 years later we're still talking about those same things.
The actual topics on the menu have changed quite a bit, though. At that time there was a lot of trepidation. Remember I think it was Fortune magazine article which came out prior to the handover, said the death, kind of trumpeted the death of Hong Kong, and we saw anything but that. Nowadays people are talking about more democracy, more of a say. How come just 10 years after the British were dictating, life here, why we don't have more of a say in our day-to-day lives? How do you figure that? I mean, the whole tone, the whole menu of topics du jour has shifted quite dramatically in some ways, hasn't it?
And in some ways it has, but if you look at the characters in Hong Kong on Air, they were talking very much about those same kinds of things before the handover. We had one reporter who thought that the handover was Tiananmen Square 2. We had another reporter who thought that the handover was the fall of the Berlin Wall. So those viewpoints are out there. I think those viewpoints are still out there, and 10 years later, maybe some new flavors.
What was the inspiration for this book? And it's a very colorful read, I have to say. And those of us who were around back then certainly see lots of echoes of life in our own our own daily life in this work here. Essentially, what it is, if I had to boil it down to one sort of little blurb here, it's a convergence of people from all parts of the world on what was a very interesting story at that time. Very eclectic sort of mix of characters, very in many ways schizophrenic mix of characters. What was the inspiration for it?
Well, I think that everyone who was in Hong Kong at that time, everyone who was in Hong Kong in 1997 or the years leading up to that, must have said to themselves, gosh, I got to write a book about everything I'm seeing here. It really was a melting pot brewing with pure gold back in those days, both in terms of the economy and just in terms of all the people from all over the world who were here and who wanted to be here. I do remember during the handover, people telling me, oh yeah, we're staying next to Grace Jones in our hotel. This and that. People were really, really interested in Hong Kong from all over the world in a way they may not be.
Has it dropped off the map somewhat? I mean, the expatriate community has dwindled somewhat. A lot of people kind of went on and did other things. Today, at that time, no, I don't think we ever mentioned pollution as health hazard number one. All of a sudden it's on everybody's radar nowadays. People are skipping Hong Kong, apparently going to Singapore, worried about their kids' health. Has this isn't a word, cosmopolitanness, has the international flavor of the city lost a little bit of its allure here?
I don't think that. I think Hong Kong is still a great international city. I think it also is a much more tied to China than it was then, obviously, and I think that's part of Hong Kong's equation. In Hong Kong on Air, we talk a bit about that, about how what people wondering what was going to happen, whether or not this place would still be the same, and I think that this place still is the same, but I do think that we're more focused on China now than we were in 1997.
Right. Your own travels took you out. I mean, you've traveled more places in the last 10 years than I have in my entire lifetime. It's taken you all over the place. You've been in and out of Hong Kong. You've done various things. You've expanded your career beyond journalism, unlike some of us who can't seem to can't seem to leave this behind. What's next in your relationship with Hong Kong, if any, beyond the book, or is this kind of the closing chapter for you?
Oh well, the next chapter is the book launch on September 14th at Bookazine. But beyond that, no, my career in Hong Kong and my life with Hong Kong is still very much alive, and see what's next.
What's the print run? Just out of curiosity, it's not in hardback either. You came out in paperbacks, I get, presumably to make it a little more approachable to the masses.
Correct.
What's the first print run here? Just out of curiosity.
It's in the thousands.
Okay. And is there going to be a rewrite, update, a revision of this maybe for the 15th anniversary?
Well, let's hope maybe there'll be a new story for the 15th anniversary.
Who knows, in a place like Hong Kong, probably around. Good to see you.
Bernie, always a pleasure.
Good luck with the book launch, okay? Mohammed Cohen, author of Hong Kong on Air, Blackstone Books, and it goes for a song, $11.95 US, plus local and state taxes where applicable. Have a great weekend, everybody. Markets looking up, openings in Taipei, Singapore, Malaysia at the top of the hour with Kathy. See you next week.